Hi there, my name is Phil Anderson and I'm running for United States Senate to represent Wisconsin. We've had a big week behind us and a big weekend ahead of us. The big event of the weekend is the Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest, which will be taking place Saturday and Sunday on Library Mall right here on the University of Wisconsin campus in Madison. And I'll be participating in that. We'll have a booth down there, the Libertarian Party of Wisconsin. There'll also be people passing out my literature, stickers, Gary Johnson stuff, all kinds of things. And then right before the march from Library Mall to the Capitol at about 4 o'clock or so on Sunday, I'll be speaking and hopefully getting the crowd a little bit riled up. And why? Because marijuana should be legal. About 60% or so of Americans understand that marijuana should be legal. The rest, or at least a lot of the rest, I think, haven't had the case presented to them yet effectively. I'm going to try and do that now, at least the basic points of it. Number one, it's relatively harmless. Relative to other things that are legal, it's relatively harmless. It's a lot less harmless than cigarettes, than alcohol, than a lot of prescription drugs. It's relatively harmless. Number two, it doesn't mean, legalizing it doesn't mean it'll be in the hands of kids. It can still be regulated for those who are only for 18 and older. Number three, by legalizing it, we'll remove the burden from the police of having to prosecute crimes that have, at least these set of crimes, that have no victims. So we will have, the police can concentrate on more things that are actually criminal activity, offenses against people's persons and their property, which is the correct focus of law enforcement, insofar as it has one, and they'll be able to redirect their efforts at that. And lastly, well not lastly, but fourthly, relative to that, is that there'll be fewer people in prison, fewer people that are committing crimes, supposedly crimes, that have no victims, that are just exercising their God-given right to eat, drink, smoke, whatever they want, in the privacy of their own homes without harming anyone else. Those people will be back in the workforce, back in their families, back acting as parents, workers, brothers and sisters, law-abiding citizens, etc. Especially black people who have been by far overrepresented in the arrest and prosecution of marijuana use. So it's good, 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 good. And last of all, it has tremendous medicinal uses, industrial uses for anything from medicine to clothing to paper to energy, all these different things. So in the face of all this, and assuming that my opponents are intelligent people, you'd wonder, why have they not come out and said that they agree that marijuana should be legal? Certainly, I think the first 4 points that I made, that it's harmless, that kids don't have to have access to it, that it's got tremendous medicinal uses, and that it would help the police focus on actual crimes and keep people, especially black people, out of jail. I think that those are all statistically demonstrable, and that they would and should agree with them. It's the last thing, I think, where the proof is. The tremendous medicinal, industrial use of hemp and marijuana. And that's where you can identify where the corruption is in this particular position. My opponents are not endorsing the legalization of marijuana because there's a lot of money for other industries in the fact that marijuana is illegal. Namely, as I've mentioned already, the pharmaceutical industry, the energy industry, the paper industry, clothing industry, just to name a few. So clearly, unless they're completely devoid of common sense, which I'm not ready to say that yet, it must be that there's a lot of money involved, a lot of campaign contributions, a lot of contributions to the Republican National Committee and the Democrat National Committee, based on the fact that they continue to make marijuana, or leave marijuana as being Schedule 1, and therefore making it illegal. So I think we've demonstrated our point here. Marijuana should be legal, and only somebody who is bought and paid for by big lobbies, pharmaceutical, clothing, energy, etc., would oppose such a thing. And as a matter of fact, the opposition is so strong based on money that they're not willing to back public opinion and possibly get some votes by that, which is also indicative of a common Democrat and Republican sort of working together to keep the money flowing into Washington and into their parties. And that is, even though there's votes to be had by advocating for the legalization of marijuana, the money is more important than the votes. So, ipso facto, not sure if I used that term correctly there, but it's clear, I think, that the reason that especially Russ Feingold and also Ron Johnson are not advocating for it is because they're bought and paid for, and because they're basically lackeys for their political parties from top to bottom. So, if you're inclined, please visit our booth on Saturday, and on Sunday I'll be speaking at about 4 o'clock. Join us for the march. You don't have to ingest any marijuana. That's not what it's about. It's about freedom. It's not about the drug specifically. It's about freedom. It's about fighting the war on drugs, which is actually a war on people. And that's what we're all about. Libertarians, and myself included, are about freeing people from the coercion of government. And the fact that marijuana is illegal is a classic example of corruption and the coercion of government against the liberties of law-abiding citizens. Thanks, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.